Hi, everybody.
Okay, we are recording.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Helen Plum Library Board of Trustees meeting for October 15th, 2024 at 7 p.m. Our meeting is called to order. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic that stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Jen, can you home?
Absentee play
Here.
Wiggins here. Stadwell
Here.
Smith
Here.
for Erickson.
Here.
Ginger Perry
Here.
Kelly Sims.
Here. Okay, great. Do we have any public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on. May I have a motion for the first action item? I move for the adoption of the agenda. And second? Second. Any questions regarding? Okay, all in favor of adopting the agenda as is, so aye. 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 Any opposed? Okay, next item is the Board of Trustees Land Acknowledgement Statement. The Helen Plum Library Board of Trustees unanimously acknowledges that many Indigenous groups once lived on the land where the library now resides. The library invites all to learn their histories, cultures, and peoples. The library encourages our neighbors to explore learning opportunities through local Indigenous-based organizations such as Midwest Soaring Foundation. Okay, may I have a motion for the next action item?
I move for the approval of the consent agenda items.
A second. Thank you. Any discussion?
I did want to provide some clarification from the minutes, just because it wasn't clear and I wanted to make sure it was understood. Trustee Sims had asked why the notary service was not tracked in the statistics, and usually it was tracked under additional services. I said that it wasn't being tracked under additional services. It's included in the adult services program stats. So that is still being quantified there. It's just in a different location. So if you wanted a breakdown of what it was month to month, we could do that, but it's just kind of lumped in with the program stats now.
And under 5C where it says Kelly noted, is that trustee Sims or is that someone else?
Yes.
Yeah. So should we should say trustee Sims? Okay.
Yes. Okay, all in favor of approval of the consent agenda items as amended? Say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, on to committee and foundation reports. Audit committee?
Did not meet.
Okay, thank you. Director Relations Committee.
We did not meet, but thank you to everybody for filling out the trustee self-evaluation. We have all of those results and we've tentatively scheduled a meeting for October 29th to discuss everything. So big thank you to everybody for completing that and sending that in.
Thank you, Jen. Yes. Okay, Policy and Bylaws Committee?
We did not.
Okay. And any update on the foundation?
Yes, we do have an update. The foundation group has not met, but we do have a slate of people for the director and vice president, secretary, and treasurer for that group. So it will not have to dissolve, which is in the best interest of the group. So things are looking up there, and their meeting is scheduled later this month on the 28th. So everything should go well at that meeting to get this new board and set of directors in place for that to move forward.
So they'd be voting at that meeting?
Yes, they would be
Okay.
voting on the new president to bring in, the secretary and treasurer would be staying on, and then the new vice president coming in. So that should all go well, and I think this new group of people will work very well with each other and with our board as well as with Anne and staff. So I'm very excited about it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, and then the second action item.
Thank you. I'm just gonna go right into it. I did want to bring up an opportunity for the that I'll be bringing to the foundation at this next meeting. If you remember the Helen Plum portrait, it was in front of where Jen works for a period of time, but we noticed some damage to the frame, and also there was what we weren't, a substance on the, thank you, the mat for that for a while. So we did send it to the Chicago conservators, and they did an assessment. They think that the frame is actually original to the piece, that it may have been repainted at some point. And they noted that the damage to the matting, was most likely just some fall from the pastels. Because it is a fragile art, so they're gonna be doing some work to restore that piece. We'll be asking the foundation to see if they can cover, some or all of the cost, as this wasn't necessarily expected. And it's also an opportunity for the foundation to have their name on something really significant at the library. So once that's revealed and restored, it'll be a really good opportunity for them to have the, restored by the Helen Plum Foundation right next to Helen Plum's portrait. So seems like a great opportunity. And like I said, I'll be bringing that to them later this month.
Kind of surprised me.
There was more damage as because we were walking past it every day and we're like, ooh, and ooh, but it's the namesake. So there's not a lot we have of hers. So I think it's important to really consider if we can move forward on this. So we are moving forward on it. It's just a matter of whether the foundation wants to participate in that as well.
And it looks to me like there's a couple of different options on how it can be restored. So there can be just the portrait itself, and then also the frame as a separate item.
We are
So-
moving forward with the whole
thing.
because
Right.
if it is the original frame, we would
Right.
want to keep that for the record anyway.
Yeah,
It's really just what role the foundation would like to play in
Right.
it, so.
so there's a couple of different price points that can
Yes.
be used.
So they can support the cost of one of those things or all. So
And is this company, how did we come to this company?
So they're a very well-respected organization. I know the Lombard Historical Society has worked with them as well. But they're kind of the go-to conservators in the area, so. Not kind of, they're the go-to conservators.
Did you get to them by a certain person or is it just?
Do you read it?
Yes.
So when I was looking at some local framing companies in the area, it was something that I have. Pieces that are slated to be reframed, and I had brought up concerns with the portrait and kind of sent some pictures, and I was like, the framing, but for this, 100%, I would recommend that you go towards this group and go with more information. From other organizations can use them and kind of look at their both fees as a graphics. And it was, I recommend, I actually went and toured the facility. It's pretty cool. They have a very comprehensive restoration. There's different departments because they do a slate of everything. Stuff that's paper, the portraits, they do furniture restoration. So potentially depending on how this goes, we're going to protect them to do preservation for the original library sign that's painted because a lot of with the age that they just blinking on and all that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna see how this goes. So project, but excited.
So there is no address, no phone number, no website, anything for this company.
It's on the paperwork we shared.
Yeah,
We do, I mean, we have all that information. I think we just didn't copy
I
it.
just thought it was kind of weird that the letterhead didn't have.
There were about 8 additional pages of the
Yeah.
conditions of the content. So I just had printed that out
Yeah.
because it didn't have the pertinent information for the actual portrait report itself. But I know.
Would you like to see the rest of the?
I would just like to know where they're located, so I can
Okay,
just kind of look into them myself.
sure, we can share those details. Happy to.
Okay, I just have a question. Do we know how old the portrait is?
So estimated like late 19th century, based on her age within the portrait, and when she passed, I would say, so probably like 1960s, 1870s, but.
All right, thank you. Is there any unfinished business that we had? Anything listed, so, oh, moving on to new business. We have an action item for the first item on new business.
I move to adopt resolution 2024-2025-007 to determine estimate of funds for 2024-2025 fiscal year.
A second.
Thank you. And we did the last meeting, right?
Right.
We did the,
So we are on track with our financial calendar for the year. This document is to just provide clarification to the community that no, we are not going to ask for more than 5% above and beyond the levy extension from last year. It's not a commitment to ask for that, but it's a commitment to not go above that. So we don't need to have a tight hearing.
Okay.
Next month, we'll bring the levy to the board, but this has to come 20 days before that, so here we are.
okay,
So we don't have to have a hearing if we're not going above
right.
Right,
5%. Okay,
yes,
thank you for.
that's what this document is.
There's unfortunately, it's just not quite,
Yeah,
okay. All right, we need a vote, though, correct? Is it a
Roll call?
roll call vote? It's not, okay. All in favor of adopting a resolution to determine the estimate of funds for 2024-2025 fiscal year, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. And now the next item is discussion of the INA conference highlights. Ginger, are you doing that for us?
Yeah,
Thank you.
because this is, my favorite part. I love this kind of stuff. I had a fantastic time at the ILA conference in Peoria. First day, the keynote speaker was Nick Offerman, and it was a remote program because he is still in Hungary doing filming for whatever he is working on right now. So you submitted your questions beforehand and he answered them through this video conference. And so it was really fun, very interesting. His family was mentioned multiple times. His librarian from high school was mentioned. He just was a lovely, lovely speaker. It was rather touching to have him speak about that. The second day was Michael Threets, who is the library guy from California. He brought library joy to all of us. It was so sweet. He's exactly the same person on his Instagram as he is sitting there on stage, and just made my heart happy. And Threets. THR.
So did he give like a talk or?
Yes, and a Q&A session, and it was just so sweet.
Yeah.
He is just such a lovely person.
I love that
Just
guy.
made me so happy.
Yeah.
And brought happiness to everybody. It was just great. There were wonderful programs to sit through. I went to an iLead training about actively being anti-racist, which is something that I think would be really good for all of us to do, looking at our policies through a DEI lens and being very specific about working with our policies in that way. I also went to a program with Rails, which has created a specific response team to any libraries that are having difficulties. And as soon as they are starting to have difficulties, asking for help from other libraries. And that comes in multiple stages of response, either having other librarians or library boards write letters in support, or coming to meetings in support. And that means just being a friendly face. It doesn't have to mean us to be there to speak. Also researching challenging books and being ready to help because there are so many books being challenged, you don't have time to research all of them. So having other people start that research and having it ready when those books come up. So I have sent this information to all of you because I was told about it a few weeks ago. So I went to this full program about it, and it's really interesting how some libraries are using that. The other program I went to that I think our library could be on the cutting edge of is working with people with disabilities and mobility issues. I don't know if you set in on that, Alex, but
Closing keynote?
the closing keynote. A lovely woman talked about how people with disabilities have not only issues with things like furniture and sitting at tables, but having a library that would have items that they could check out to see if they work, to see if it's an item that they should purchase, because these things that are supposed to help people with disabilities are incredibly expensive. And you don't know if it really is going to help you until you actually start using it. And it may not work for you because of your abilities or non-abilities. These items may not be useful. Simple things like a hand chopper. If you don't have the strength to push on that plunger, this $49 item is no longer useful to you. Other things that our library could do to help would be to have additional assistance down in our hub to open bottles and cans, and these are simple things, but people with certain disabilities can't open those bottles that are in the vending machines. And they may not be able to reach some of the other things that we have in different places because they're either set up too high or they're set back too far. So looking at some of those things to help. And they're not things that people who don't have these disabilities would even notice. So those were some of the big ideas that I took away. Yeah.
All right, moving on to communications. We did not receive anything this month, okay? So no communications, all right, library director's report.
Hey. I have a few things to go over, including the results from our customer service survey. I think we handed out a copy at the top of the meeting. So the survey ran from August through September through online newsletters, social media, there were banners on the website and the event calendar. We had print copies available in the building, and we also followed up prior survey participants for feedback who consented. We had 185 responses. Many of them were frequent visitors to the library, meaning they come monthly to the library or more frequently. But it did primarily represent adults and seniors, and families and children with children's and teens were underrepresented in this group. Overall, the customer service rating was 4.54 out of 5 stars. Most patrons experience a very high level of customer service, but there are some inconsistent experiences. So something to be mindful of going forward. Organizationally, we have had a long-standing goal to create a customer service philosophy and to train based on that philosophy. So that is still a goal for us, to make sure that that experience for customers coming into the library is consistently excellent. There was some additional feedback in here that I bulleted for you. Requests for additional comfort seating. That's something we've been looking at. High demand for study rooms. They are very busy. Frustration over sound carry. So we're looking at some sound softening panels to go and start in this room because there is a lot of, you hear it while I'm talking now, and then other areas on the second floor where we do notice some sound carry happening. And then also excitement over the quality of programs and interest in more being offered. And mostly favorable feedback regarding the drive-through book drops with some exceptions. So overall, we had a lot of feedback. Nothing we were too surprised by, but it's a good experience to go through. And then marketing once again put together, mine's not in color, but some highlights from the overall survey. So all of this is building towards that strategic plan conversation. So we're trying to get as much data and feedback from patrons as possible as we start to develop goals going forward.
So only 185 responses, and we have 18,000 cardholders. Isn't that kind of a low number?
You know, if you get 50, it's a good survey. You know, as far as all of the research is done on surveys, if you could get 50 responses, it is a good survey. This particular survey was not promoted in the newsletter because by the time we had gotten it available.
Not just that. I think we wanted to make sure we were capturing responses of people that are using the library services because it's customer service. So if you're not interacting with staff, we can't necessarily get a measure for what the customer service is. We also asked in the survey if you had been to the library within the last year, because there's been a lot of change in the last year. And I think customer service experience during COVID is much different than in a brand new building. So yeah, it didn't make it into the newsletter, but we kind of saw that as, well, we're gonna get more authentic feedback because we're getting feedback from people that are using this space. The next survey is the materials. So that'll go out more broadly because you don't have to come to the library to use our materials. You can use those materials remotely. So that will be in our next newsletter. And the closing one is the program assessment. We have some ideas for how to approach that as well, particularly so we're capturing those families with young children as they're leaving programs. So we can give them a quick QR code or a paper survey to fill out, but we'll be a little bit more creative. I think initially I was a little disappointed by the number of survey responses because our last one was more successful in terms of the number, but the feedback we got, I think, was very valuable. And the comments that were in there, like I said, there was no surprises. That doesn't mean it was all great news. But it seemed very authentic. So yeah.
How many did we have last time? I don't remember.
I think it was just shy of 500.
Oh, wow. That's a
Yeah.
big difference.
That is,
And
yeah.
I'm surprised
The
that,
last one also, just as a note, we had also sent out a postcard
Yeah.
to
Oh,
the
yeah.
community that had a QR code on it. So there was a little bit more promotion for that. It was a program.
Yeah.
well, and it was in the newsletter too, I
Mhm.
think. Yeah. I was disappointed that families and children
We're underrepresented.
are,
Yeah,
because that's a
that
huge
surprised me.
Well, you know,
user group.
and it's
for us,
interesting
right?
because when you think of the patron point email blasts that are going out, it's going. Those target groups, it's baby, it's preschool, it's grade school, it's teen, it's middle school. So we're communicating quite a bit. That can't give us any level of guarantee that people were. We do, we really do.
And I would think those are some of our most engaged patrons.
But they still got kids and, you know, and
Yeah.
time to stop and fill things out sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
I have, now this sounds really silly maybe,
Oh, I'm like,
but when I worked in the schools, we had things like this.
Mhm.
And the kids would take them home and they have to come back. And we bribed them with a little thing. So I don't know if a stick, fill this out, you get a sticker for kids, something like
you know,
that.
and it's
I mean, it
interesting.
would be another cost, but
Maybe didn't get the level of data we were hoping for families, but when we look at, and I think Tabitha does a good job of highlighting comments in her report where it is talking about those customer service engagements. So we do track those in Gimlet. So we do have other data we can pull from. For the summary, I really wanted to just focus on the survey, but it was interesting that the majority of people that filled it out were not children, were not families with children or teens. So I just wanted to make sure that was noted.
Yeah.
I was thinking the same thing goes to like families are like, if you're managing a lot of kids and supplies coming to the library, you're probably not managing a survey.
Yeah.
Back to the email to fill it out.
Yeah, well, and I would say in that initial survey, we're always, in all of our surveys for this process, we'll have open-ended questions. So we're getting more feedback than what's specifically being asked. So we are getting feedback on
that's
customer
good, yeah.
service, right? Like, that's what we want.
Yeah.
So a person may not fill out a customer service survey, but they did the user assessment survey in which they said A, B,
Yeah.
and C. So, you know, we're getting feedback. And I think even for the way we approach the surveys, We do have some ideas on different ways and unique ways to distribute them. For collection surveys, making a bookmark with a QR code, really easy to do, or having that survey ready to go in some books ready to go. To get a little bit higher response rate. I also don't know that August and September are necessarily the target time to really get surveys out because it's a busy time. But we wanted to make sure that we were getting these done in a timely manner, so.
I was
Pluses and
thinking,
minuses.
and I haven't had a chance to read all this,
Yeah.
just got it, but the whole thing about the sound,
Yes.
like, just as a user, I ran into the guy that used to own the coffee shop downtown, and if you guys have met him for that.
Yeah.
I was like in the quiet section where I've gotten irritated that people were talking, and now I was one of those people that were talking, because he came up to me. And then like someone was kind of giving me like the like shut up, like, which I understand and appreciate. So we got it. I'm like, you know what, let's go from here toward like so I, like, I'm thinking about how we make like those spaces feel like more gathering points, like in front of the adults, like when you come up the elevator. And you're there, and like it's obvious, but I think, I don't know if there's any ways to make it clear, like that's where you can talk and like meet people.
So there's a few things we're looking at. Part of that is like the comfort seating question, where
True.
we're already
You
strategically
could
put
put more stuff there.
armchairs and love
True.
seats and things that are easier for multiple types of bodies to get in and out of.
Yeah.
We will be adding different seating to outside of the makerspace to kind of reorient what that space is. We're
Yeah.
looking at adding some pockets of comfort seating to the first floor.
Yeah.
But the sound carry can come from the first floor to the second floor.
Sure.
So what we're also looking for are, there's some designs now for panels or things that look like cacti, where you can kind of strategically place them.
Oh, yeah.
But it gives a
That's smart.
sense of those panels are
Yes.
just like the big kind of, I don't want to be too dramatic here, but like
Yeah.
false walls.
Sure.
So if you do.
Partition.
Thank you, a partition. So if you do need to have a little separation between, okay, I am a focused studier, let's put some of these up so that there's a little less of that sound carry. And then, and I think Jenny had mentioned this, there are like single user pods now as well with like a door, almost like a telephone booth. So those we're kind of watching to see, we're watching and waiting for the prices to come down. But when we're looking at spaces like the south wall of the adult services section, there's opportunity there to pop some of those in. So if a person needs to take a quick phone call or just wants quiet, they have kind of a quick 10-minute use sort of space. Because we can't have an infinite number of study rooms, but we can offer some alternatives in how things are laid out, so.
But at the same time, I want people to have like gathering points where they can
Yes.
talk to people too, and that was my feeling, like, okay,
Cause that's.
I wanna talk to this guy, it was like a random run-in,
Mhm.
but I can't do it here, but like, I wanna find a spot.
So we're trying to bring the noise.
Yeah,
I'm doing this motion because I'm going, we're trying to
Yeah.
bring the noise this way,
Yeah.
right? And then let the quiet kind of be, and it's never gonna be perfectly quiet. It's a public building. We're busy.
Yeah.
I think all of us were commenting on the parking ahead of the meeting. So it's just, we're busy, we're active, we're doing things, but how can we better create that noise concern? And so.
Discussing seating, I don't know how many of you have sat in the chairs in the 411. But when you're older, and I'm my age or older, those chairs are dangerous.
Are they?
Because it's a tile floor and those wheels move very quickly.
Okay.
And for anybody my age or older, falling is a huge concern. So there needs to be some kind of a chair that where you're sitting is
Right.
like a,
Yeah, maybe have some
a dining
alternatives.
chair. Yes, we really need a
Okay.
couple of chairs available.
what are they?
Well,
They're kind of a crafty chair.
There,
Oh.
first of all, you're sitting like this, your legs are here, and
Oh.
here's your back.
Oh, okay,
And those casters, because we're on carpet,
yeah.
you need effort, but in
Yeah.
there. Just a little bit of pressure and you're moving down that chair.
Yeah, it's interesting because for some folks, they really appreciate it when they're moving from things at the table, so they can kind of get there. But there's no reason not to get some alternatives, so. Okay,
Because I've been in classes where I have not been the youngest one. There's been people older than me and they were voicing concern, so.
good, thank you.
And I just had an overall general question for you based on the
Yes.
feedback. What do you want to feel is kind of the most urgent thing that you want to focus on? And is there anything that the board can do that can be supportive or helpful as you're kind of going through the customer service information?
No, I think this is, to me, the learning phase, right? So that's the focus of this. We're hearing what patrons are saying and we're giving ourselves time to process that information. It's funny, Jenny, I don't know where to look because I want to look at the screen because that's where you are. So I'm like looking around, I'm like, so in terms of what do I need the board to do, take this information, think about it, because we're gonna come together either in the first or second quarter next year to talk about what the information we have is and say, hey, what do we need to do next to improve these things? How can we get to where we want to go and where do we want to go? Based on the information from the community, from staff and from things that you hear. So really just keep gathering and thinking and processing. So no real action right now, but just keep paying attention. We'll keep giving the summaries. We'll put it all together in a packet for a meeting down the line.
Keep sitting in furniture in various parts of the library.
Yes.
Talk both quietly and loudly. So that you can get feedback. Got it.
Explore all the chairs.
Okay.
Any other questions on the community survey? I did have a couple other things before we move on. Right now in the hub, we have the Love Purse Drive. We're once again partnering with local legislators to accept donations of new purses with toiletries. This October is Domestic Violence Awareness, so that's why they're focusing on this. It will go to support Metropolitan Family Services. We do have 3 more drives scheduled after that. We have the Lombard Fire Department's annual toy drive. We don't have dates for that yet, but they did confirm that they're doing it yesterday. So that was great. It's usually November into December. And then in December 2nd through the 30th, we'll have the COD fuel pantry, which we posted here before. It's just helping to support their pantry that everyone can access. And then we'll do another blood drive on the 12th of December with First City. So keeping things moving. And then updates on the Maple Street property. I know I have a couple comments in the printed report, but as of October 11th on Thursday, we had the village out for what we were hoping could be the final inspection of the property, and we are very, very close. Right, so there are 4 items on the village's inspection report. The first is to restore the grading along sidewalks and curbing at Maple Street, which is once we move the fence to make sure that there aren't any big lumps or other things, so easy enough to repair. At the bottom of the stairs at the coach house, that is the park's property, so that is their responsibility. They are going to be adding a gate to the top and bottom of those stairs in the next 4, I think it was scheduled for about 4 weeks from now. We can remove the construction fencing, the silt fencing and the construction related materials off the site. We're waiting to just coordinate that with the park, because if they're gonna do this work on the coach house, we can't take the fencing down until the coach house stairs are secure and safe. I guess we could put kind of a temporary fencing up, but we want to make sure it's all safe before we press go, right? And then we do need to just restripe the handicap parking stall on Maple Street. So, right, like that's it. I know. So it was a good walkthrough. We had Jason was there with John from Frederick Plan, Jason Cooper, the landscape architect. And we were pretty excited. Also, Thursday was gorgeous. And the grass doesn't look so bad there anymore. So our the excavators have been working. And then just a couple quick staffing updates. We do have 2 open positions. One is the assistant director position. I'm finally going to replace myself. And then we have a part-time maker library associate posted as well. And then we do welcome Katie Horner on Monday as our new patron services manager. We're very excited to get her started. Great question. I don't remember.
Lake Bluff.
Thank you. I was like, those interviews were a month ago.
Lake Bluff.
Oh, she was at Lake Bluff, and before that, she was at the Waukegan Public Library. But she has years of experience in patron services, and we're very excited to get her on our team.
And is the maker librarian position in addition to the person we have now?
Correct. So this is a
To
part-time,
help support this.
yes, because we have a lot of programs coming up and it's not gonna slow down, so.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. It's a busy, it's wonderfully busy. Yeah, no, it's been really great, so. Okay, that was what I had above what we have in the written report. It's a couple days between me drafting it on Thursday and this happening. I'm like, and here we go.
I wanted to say kudos to Phil and the facilities group for the awesome job they did with the installation for the maps.
Right.
It,
Yeah.
everything was
Getting all those, getting all those rails in was no small feat, so.
Excellent. Setup. You know, gave Steph, for marketing, she really was the one that did most of the research on the hardware. And purchasing of that, and maps themselves did the actual installation of the pieces and the kind of their. You know.
The artist.
Yeah. Yeah.
What goes?
Usually have just a copy of the pieces, the movies that are downstairs and right outside of the large room.
Oh.
He's got a copy of it to me, so. It's the stuff.
Well, I attended the senior fair, what was that 2 Fridays ago?
Yeah.
And I was very pleased to see Sue there. So I was just wondering what citizens of Lombard had to say to you about the library.
Overall ecstatic, very, very happy. Most people very, very, much enjoy coming to the library and like it. You know, just a little bit of education type stuff was what we were getting people, showing them how to find programs in the newsletter. You know, telling them how easy it is to come in and visit us and get information. You know, some people wanted to figure out how to filter some of the information so they could just get new lists and things along that line, so. But a lot of people were just going on and on, some people thanking us for particular programs that we had. So it was, I think it was a big success. And the senior fair itself was by far the largest one they've ever had. It was very, very well attended. If you attended, you knew parking was a premium.
Yeah, it was, sure was.
It's a good collaboration with everybody in the community.
Where was it, Ken?
It was at the
man.
Okay. Anything on departmental reports? Sounds good. Moving on.
Did you win anything at the ILA?
Called by anyone yet. I did win free registration to the Innovative Users Group Conference next year for filling out their post-conference survey.
So technically,
For a really great lady.
me either. No, I haven't gotten a call yet.
I mean, they do give it up. Every single sign. When we get rid of it. Both of Ingrid Anderson and Fred Quinn had tables there, so.
Yes, I think. Display.
Anything that was very, in fact, the feedback, I think Alex was probably heard it too, is a lot of people were just going on in the library community about all the good things that are there. You know, the local library could be a 5-star library, something in the not that far away.
How does that work? You apply and.
Yeah, you don't really need to apply. It's a metric that is kind of complicated. You might even know more about it than I do, but it's got to do with your busyness,
I'm not very familiar with a lot of the metrics, but I believe a lot of it's based on the data reported in our report. So ratio of cardholders in the community, number of programs attended, it's really a about how utilized the library is based on
Okay,
some of that public data.
because I think Addison declared that.
Early. You can do that.
No, you said. I'm gonna get that. That was before we built it.
Listen, it was in the early strategic meetings, I was like.
Yeah.
There'll be banners.
Yeah. So, yeah, it would be.
Maybe in time for the centennial.
All right, gotta have a goal. I think we are at the end. We have a motion for, I move to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Adjourn.
Have a good night.
Thank you.